The day I realized Vector Supply was heading for a total disaster was not when our shares tumbled. It was the exact afternoon Holden strolled into the main boardroom. He was a young executive who wore expensive designer vests and radiated a massive amount of unearned swagger. He looked at us veteran engineers like we were obsolete machines waiting for the scrap heap. I sat in the corner quietly observing his entrance while sipping some terrible lukewarm tea. Before we get to how I absolutely dismantled his corporate arrogance, please do me a favor. Take a second to hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss these wild stories. Also, I am always curious about my audience, so please let me know in the comments which country you are watching this video from today. Now, let us get back to how this young executive made the biggest mistake of his entire life. Holden quickly pulled up a colorful slide that was filled with meaningless arrows and corporate buzzwords. He announced that we were going to delete our core logistics database to transition to a modern cloud setup. He did not realize that this specific system was my personal masterpiece which had saved the business from collapsing during a massive global shipping crisis. That code kept our entire shipping network alive when the world was falling apart. I spoke up and warned him that removing that database would essentially destroy our vendor network. Holden turned around and flashed a patronizing smile that did not reach his eyes at all. He called me sweetheart and explained that my old methods were holding the modern vision of the company hostage. The room fell completely silent as the other developers stared at their desks in absolute horror because they knew what was coming. What Holden did not bother to check was my actual contract. Years ago, when the startup was completely broke, they could not afford my high consulting fees. My brilliant attorney drafted a special software licensing agreement instead of a standard employment paper. I incorporated my own firm called Aegis Systems and merely rented the platform to them. They did not own a single line of my master code and only paid for temporary access. I decided to stay quiet and let him make his moves. The automatic quarterly payment for my software license was due in exactly 3 days. My contract had incredibly strict terms regarding any unauthorized changes to the system or missed payments. Holden was too busy congratulating himself to realize he was about to trigger a legal trap. I checked the calendar on my phone and felt a strange sense of anticipation. After the meeting ended, a younger programmer named Devon walked over to my desk with a worried expression. He whispered that Holden was planning to terminate my position by the end of the week. I simply smiled and told him not to worry about my future at all. I advised Devon to quietly polish his own resume because a massive storm was coming. He went back to his workspace looking incredibly confused by my calm demeanor. Over the next 2 days, Holden slowly removed me from all project emails and group calendars. He replaced my technical diagrams on the conference whiteboard with meaningless slogans about synergy. On the first day of the month, I logged into the private bank account of Aegis Systems to check the transaction. The quarterly payment was completely missing because the new management team had neglected to authorize the automated wire. On Friday afternoon, a calendar invite from Georgia in Human Resources popped up on my screen. I knew this was the classic corporate strategy to dismiss someone right before the weekend. I quietly packed my personal tools and a small plant into a cardboard box. I ran a secure data wipe on my corporate machine to ensure no personal files remained behind. I took my physical contract folder and walked down the hallway. The meeting room was a glass office where everyone could watch the process. Georgia sat at the table with a stack of exit documents, while Holden leaned against the wall looking incredibly proud. Georgia gently explained that my position was being eliminated because my skills did not align with their new direction. Holden offered me a small severance package in exchange for signing a restrictive non-disclosure agreement right away. I declined to sign their papers and placed my own folder on the glass table. I informed them that while they could fire me as an individual, they could not terminate the software license. I pointed to the original agreement signed by the founder, which clearly stated that Aegis Systems retained full ownership of the platform. Holden laughed out loud and insisted that the company owned everything I had created during my time there. I patiently explained that they had failed to pay the quarterly fee, which meant they were in material breach. My contract allowed me to suspend all services immediately if payment was not received on time. Holden became extremely angry and demanded that I leave the premises immediately. I handed over my building badge and walked out to my vehicle feeling an incredible rush of pure freedom. Over the weekend I rested and prepared my system admin panel at home. On Monday morning at exactly 8 in the morning, I sat down with a warm cup of coffee. I hovered my mouse over the master switch of the Aegis licensing server. If I clicked the button, their entire logistics network would instantly lose access to the core database. I decided to press the key and watch the consequences of their arrogance unfold. Within minutes, the red warning lights began to flash across my monitoring screen. The inventory databases went completely dark and the automated shipping bots stopped working entirely. My phone started ringing repeatedly, but I chose to ignore the calls while I watered my household plants. Devon sent me a frantic text message stating that Holden was screaming at the server racks because the entire operation had ground to a halt. At 9 in the morning, I finally answered a call from Holden, who sounded absolutely terrified. He accused me of sabotaging their network and threatened to take legal action. I calmly reminded him that they had refused to pay for the software license, which made their current usage completely illegal. The chief executive officer named Harrison then grabbed the phone and desperately begged me to help them resolve the crisis. Harrison offered to give me a massive promotion if I would simply restore their access. I told him that the bridge was completely gone and I would only sell the intellectual property permanently. When he asked for the price, I demanded $2,600,000. Harrison screamed that the amount was absolute extortion, but I pointed out that they were losing $10,000 every single minute. Their smart corporate attorney Valerie soon joined the call and confirmed my legal position was completely flawless. She advised Harrison that fighting the contract would cost them far more than paying my fee. Within 40 minutes, a pending wire transfer appeared in my business bank account. I clicked the green button on my terminal to restore their services and watched their systems boot back up to normal. I spent the next week relaxing before taking a meeting with Zenith Logistics, which was their primary rival. The director named Gideon welcomed me warmly and asked if I could build a superior logistics system for them. I explained that while I could not share the old code, I could easily design a brand new platform. We agreed to a highly lucrative deal that included substantial corporate equity. A few months later, our new platform launched and completely dominated the shipping market. Vector Supply saw their shares drop significantly, while Holden was demoted to a useless administrative role. I now sit in my beautiful new home looking at the framed contract on my office wall. I learned that you should never let arrogant managers undervalue your work. Always protect your intellectual property and keep the master keys.